we're still celebrating and the festive mood and the Eid celebration. Eid is for joy, for happiness, for mercy, for visiting family and friends, for another reunion and a new beginning. As we can see, Hani, we're actually in Eid and celebrating kahk as well.
Yes.
The pastries, it adds weight, but it adds glamour too.
It looks very yummy as well.
Yes, very yummy as well. We're sharing the lovely, yummy kahk or pastries with our dear, renowned tour guide, Miss Yomna Salama, with us tonight celebrating Eid. Happy Eid to you, Yomna.
Happy Eid, and I'm very happy to be with you on this special evening tonight.
We're really happy to have you with us, and Eid brings about memories, and you are on tours with tourists, with our lovely guests visiting the country, and Eid brings memories also of tours during Eid and how they felt the atmosphere in Egypt during the festive season.
Well, first of all, it's a very unique experience for any tourist visiting Egypt during different occasions like festivals or feasts. And it's really funny when you hear their comments because they really feel, by driving in the streets of Cairo or elsewhere, they feel the difference. The first thing that attracts their attention early in the morning, that the streets are almost empty. So they start asking what's going on, where is everyone? And we tell them that they're still sleeping. And then when they start to see the people going to prayers and taking their little praying carpets with them, and they see the balloons like what we have today in the streets, selling stuffs for kids, and they notice the difference, and they notice all the decoration in the streets. They notice also that the shops have different labels or different signs or writings on them. So this is all a kind of a different experience if they are visiting Egypt during feast or festivals.
Yes.
Definitely.
Well, Ms. Yomna, you're a tourism expert, and now we're talking about the sustainable development, the vision for Egypt 2030, and a lot of people are talking about the sustainable tourism. Now, we understand how sustainable energy works or sustainable industries, but how does sustainable tourism work? What does it exactly mean?
Well, I would actually like to shed light on something which is very important. We are working very hard to have our sustainable tourism in the sense of sustainability. And as we are noticing today that we have lots of achievements and lots of projects in the country, lots of touristic projects as well, to achieve this goal. Slowly, but surely we are reaching this goal. It will take us some time. As you said, we have a goal to reach in 2030, and we are on the right track to go there.
Definitely, and while in Eid and the festivities are around, I guess the tourists are also will be feeling amazed to see how we celebrate on the streets, how also the traditional, the folkloric dances that would be around also in Old Cairo. I guess this would also be another catchy mood to share in.
For the tourists, they like to ask all kinds of questions about how the feast is celebrated in Egypt.
Yes.
So they start asking, what do people do? What do people eat?
Yes.
What do they wear? Like you said, we have the kahk. It looks very tasty and
Very
yummy.
yummy.
I'm trying to keep myself. It's very tempting.
Irresistible.
It is
It's
a
very
challenge.
tempting. But they ask all these questions, and they ask to go to places where they can see the Egyptians celebrating. So they can go to parts of Old Cairo, to go to where we have shows, where we have celebrations, in theaters, in the opera house, even in the big malls, where they can see the Egyptians, how they go out and they hang out and they celebrate. So this is where we take them when we are during feast, especially after the tours. In the morning, they are on tours. But in the evening, they can go off the streets and they can see how the Egyptians are celebrating.
Yes. There are also the lyrics and the music of our songs, I guess. This also inspires them a lot. You could feel dazzled about how many tourists, especially also in Paris and other parts of the world, who memorized lyrics of Kulthum, for instance, and Abd al-Halim, and they also love Fairuz and more.
Yes, that's true. In addition to that, they are also aware of some of our new or modern
Yeah.
famous.
Like Al Hadaba, I guess
Yes,
is very famous.
of course, and like Munir as well.
Yes.
Especially tourists coming from Germany or Europe, they know Munir and they know about them, and they start to ask about the traditional songs. They start to ask about the classical ones. They start to see their pictures when we walk in the area of Al Hussein through the bazaar area. They see the pictures of those old singers and even movie actors and actresses like Omar al-Sharif and the famous ones. They see their pictures, so they start to ask about them, and we talk a lot about our tradition and culture with tourists because it's very rich and it's very diverse as well.
Yes.
So, Mrs. Yomna, for a tourist coming to Egypt during the feast, they actually have different programs as opposed to coming at any other time during the year. Do they have different programs, different procedures, and do the European or Western tourists, they seek different things than Arab tourists or African tourists as well?
Well, let's answer the first part of the question here, whether they have different programs or not. The standard programs do not change because of feast. However, we change the timing. So if you're going to visit some areas, the timing of the visit could be a little bit shorter, could be a little bit more because of the holidays and the national holidays and the feasts. But they must do the standard program. They must visit the pyramids, the museum. They must go to all the touristic places. But it's an added point to those tourists coming during a special occasion because they can experience in their free time and in the evening time after the tours different culture activities that are happening during that time. Let's say Ramadan, they can see what happens in Ramadan in Cairo. We do Cairo by night, and we take the tourists to cafes, and they are like surprised how people are awake till 2 and 3 o'clock after midnight in the streets and still eating. So this is one of the things that they comment about. How come you're still awake? And they get impressed by seeing not just few people, seeing lots of people. The life of the Egyptians during Ramadan, for example, especially when it's summertime, starts after 10 or 11. And people start to go out in the street because of the heat. And they stay till the break of dawn in areas, in local areas and cafes and so on. So they have an added and a plus point that they can experience that. The European and the Western tourists, they have interest, which is different from the Arabs. European and Westerns are highly interested in culture tourism. And the Arabs, they are interested more in the entertainment tourism. However, we find lately, and I experienced that myself, a category of Arab tourists also interested in the culture tourism. Like Saudis, like Kuwaitis, they come and they go to the museum, they go to the pyramids, which we did not experience before. But as a majority, Arabs are interested in the entertainment part. More likely the beach holidays, going to Sharm el-Sheikh, Hurghada, Safaga, diving, snorkeling and all that. And the Europeans, they do a mix of this and that, but highly interested in the pharaonic era because the pharaonic culture, the civilization of Egypt, there is no child in anywhere in the world that didn't study Egypt at school.
Yes.
Nowhere. So it's a dream for them to come and see what they experienced when they were 5 and 6 till graduation in their homelands and schools.
Yes, seeing is always, as they say, seeing is believing. So when they come and they would see for themselves, they become like dazzled by our ancient Egyptian civilization. You definitely narrate stories of the pharaohs, our grand ancestors, how they used to celebrate Eid and the feast. Are there any sort of similarities of the world of ancient Egypt and how we celebrate today?
Look, I would like to say it out loud. The Egyptians are fun people. Since 1,000 years ago, they associated every festival and every occasion, even if it's a religious occasion, with songs, with music, with dancing. And this tradition continued to be followed by the Egyptian till today. We seek every little chance or occasion to have fun and enjoy. So, going back to 7,000 years ago, the time of the ancient Egyptians and the pharaohs, there was a calendar listing 100 feasts a year. 100 feasts a year, so you can
Yeah.
actually feel how they are fun people.
Yeah, and feel how feasts are really important and very inspiring in their
Yes.
lives.
And that reminds me of something that my mom was just telling me. She told me a reason to celebrate is when you have an achievement and when you are happy about this achievement or happy about something. And if you look to the ancient Egyptians, that's what made their calendar 100 feasts a year. There is a feast for the flood of the river Nile. After the harvesting season, there is another feast for the harvesting. There is a feast for the ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses and their marriages. They used to celebrate the marriage between two gods, for example.
Yeah. By the way, feasts are usually a beautiful occasion in Egypt where we have newlyweds and we have marriages taking
Yes.
place during the Lesser Bar.
That's very good. Mentioning marriages,
Yes.
Horus, the falcon, marrying Hathor, the cow goddess, or Isis and Osiris. They used to seek every occasion. So the Egyptians back then, when they celebrated, they associated music, dancing, and songs like what we do today. As you mentioned earlier, we have special songs for Ramadan. We
Yes.
have special songs for the
For
feast,
Eid
for
and the
Eid.
feast, yes.
We have special songs for every occasion, like the Egyptians did back then. The dancing, they had religious dancing for religious feast. They had funeral dances. Even when it comes to funeral, they wanted to associate dancing and music. And nowadays, we have that as well in our feast. And another thing, food.
Yes.
Pastries and bakery and bread and drinks that associated to different occasions. This is what we are doing today. For every occasion nowadays, the Eid, we have the kahk.
Yes.
And the big feast, we have the meat.
The meat, yes.
So,
Yes.
Yes, well, definitely 100 feast calendar sounds like a very good idea. And ladies and gentlemen, we're off to a short break, but we'll be right back to continue our discussion, especially regarding the 100 feast calendar. We'll be back.